Notes of Truth with Julie Carrick. Here on Morning Joy, where truth matters.
Welcome back to Morning Joy, where truth matters. I'm your host, Keith Downey, and we are just a day away from the month of June, which is all things Sacred Heart of Jesus. And today we're talking about that. And when's the last? Do you remember your first communion? We'll talk all about that and some songs that our next contributor, Julie Carrick, is going to be talking about. Good morning, Julie.
Good morning. Good morning. I love those images that we were just talking about with the Sacred and Immaculate Heart. And it's the heart. I mean, it's the love. There's so much that we experience when we just think about those images and those amazing people they represent. And for me, the heart, I'm an emotion person. I love fact. My brain is kind of split half and half, very, very engineering, so to speak, from daddy and very heart from my mom. But going back to my first communion, this weekend, we're going to have this incredible Sunday where we have the Corpus Christi, the body and blood of Christ celebration and feast day. And it was making me think about the very first time that I received. And I was little, like 9 years old, and walking down the aisle in a white dress with a veil. I felt like a little bride, going to receive the Lord. And just such an incredible moment to be with him. And it's made me want to ask that question, if you remember the first time that you received the Lord. And for some people, you might be little like I was. Keith, were you pretty little when you received yours?
Oh, yeah. I was very little. Yeah.
Yeah. Little guy, probably a suit, right?
Yeah. I remember, that's the thing. I remember the suit. I don't remember actually receiving. I just remember the suit. I don't know why.
Well, I remember the day, I remember what I was wearing, and I remember the moment. Like I can literally, and this was a long time ago, but kneeling down at the, behind the rail, kneeling down, putting my tongue out, and as Father John Sidlowski placed the Blessed Sacrament on my tongue, it was like this most overwhelming sense of joy, this overwhelming sense of love that just filled me to the brim. And I mean, I will be 100 years old, gumming my multi-meal in the assisted living, and I will still remember this moment. Like it was so intense. And so I engage people to remember that, if you can think back to that day. And my husband and I, years ago, went through kind of a difficulty in our marriage. And when we came out the other side of it with such grace and blessing and beauty, he keeps a photo album of our wedding near our bedside table, as well as in our living room, so that anytime we may feel a sense of discord, all we have to do is look at those images of the wedding day and to remember that incredible connect that we have with each other, with God. And I would say the same for something like First Eucharist. That first time, if you have a picture of that, keep it around. I mean, we've got these images, as we were talking about, the Sacred Heart, the Immaculate Heart, and to keep those images handy so that we can look at them and to remind ourselves of this incredible love that Christ has with us, as to give himself to us in the beauty of the Eucharist. And some of the music that I've written over the years, over this incredible truth, this beautiful reality. One of them was actually, it's going to sound funny. You'd think they were written in the church, but I was actually at the Grand Canyon, and I remember standing on the edge of the canyon, and this had been after a really lengthy tour that we had done across the country. We'd been out in the bus for literally 6 months. We got back to Arizona, and one of our board members said, "Hey, let's do a retreat." And I was like, "Yeah, no, thanks. I really don't want to do a retreat. I want to be home, number one. And number two, when you go on retreat and you quiet yourself, what happens next is God gives you your next thing, whatever that's going to be." And I was not ready for my next thing. I wanted to hide from God, like literally. I'm thinking, I want to hide. And so they kept pushing for this retreat. And I said, all right, if I'm going to do a retreat, I get to pick the place. And they were like, okay. I said, I want to go to the Grand Canyon. And they were like, really? That you want to go to the canyon? And I was like, oh yeah, a canyon would be a perfect place for a retreat. And in my head, the reason I wanted to go there was we could take the tour bus. We all fit very comfortably in it. We would get to the canyon and realize that there's no connectivity there. There's very little internet. It's a very remote place, as large as it is. And honestly, the church there, the Catholic Church at that time, had mass only on Sunday, and we were going to be there midweek. So, like, literally, we couldn't even go to church. It was going to be like disconnect from everything. They didn't know this, but I knew this. And so we get up to the canyon, and on day 2, I think really the only really retreating I did was we would do our regular, the beautiful rosary each day and the liturgy of the hours, but that was it. There was no other like really in-depth prayer time going to happen. And it was on the second morning, one of the guys from the group, they said, you know what, let's get up super early and watch the sunrise. And I thought, well, that's awesome. Yeah, let's do that. And so we get up super early. We're standing on the edge of the canyon and we're watching the sunrise. And as the sun is creeping up the wall of the canyon, the colors, the textures, the smell, the sounds of creation as the birds are waking up and the little critters are moving around and stuff. It was magnificent. Like, it was so magnificent. And as I'm standing there watching, people start grabbing their cell phones and cameras, and they're trying to get that one perfect picture. Which, by the way, don't do that with your back to the canyon, because that's how people fall in. Like, it's bad. And so I'm watching this crazy behavior of people. Like, somehow they're going to get one picture of the entire Grand Canyon and somehow capture all of that majesty in one frame. And so I'm thinking to myself, you can no sooner capture all of the Grand Canyon in one picture any more than you could capture all of God in one place. And that was when God snuck into my thoughts. And he said to me in my heart, accept, Julie, in the Eucharist. In the Eucharist, 100% of me is present within you as you receive me. And I began to weep. Like, I'm having these thoughts, just all internal. And my husband and my friends are looking at me like, what's wrong with her? She's really overcome by the beauty of the canyon, And so I had to sit down, and I took a pen and a piece of paper, and I just sat down and I started writing the thoughts of what I was hearing. And I love that the heart is part of what we're talking about over this next month, that we'll be spending time with the Sacred Heart, because in our heart, we can truly conceive and carry Christ within us. In that Eucharistic embrace, it's such an amazing connection to the heart of Christ. And so that was the song that I wrote that morning. And it was Oh Dark 30. I mean, it was super early watching that sunrise. And I just sat there and wrote down the words to the song, Can My Heart Conceive? And I think of some of the beautiful traditional Eucharistic hymns, what our senses fail to fathom. That little line in the Eucharistic prayer from St. Augustine, what our senses fail to fathom. We see this little wafer, this little white piece of bread. And yet, if our senses could truly 100% understand and truly accept the beauty of who we are receiving, we wouldn't just see a piece of bread anymore. Right. We would see truly who we are having this intimate connection with. And to be able to, it's amazing to me how the senses become so quieted in a time when they should just be euphoric. It's an amazing thing. And so that song coming out of it, Can My Heart Conceive, is just, wow. Yeah, that one. And then we did the music video for it. Was the coolest thing, because we took these video clips at the canyon, and then we went to the life of Christ, where he's born. And we use that word, can my heart conceive? As Mary conceived and carried him, can we conceive in our heart? And so I really encourage everybody listening today to go to the YouTube, Can My Heart Conceive, Julie Carrick, and watch this music video. It is so sacred to take us through the entire life of Christ in our Eucharistic journey. And then that takes me to the beauty of another song, where it kind of almost jumped out of that one, because after I finished writing the song, Can My Heart Conceive, I kept going back to the image of the manger, that manger, and that the idea that the first place that Christ was laid outside of that living tabernacle of Mary was the manger. And I may have shared this before on Morning Joy, but I've gone a bit more in depth on We Sing Our Faith with this one. But to take that word manger and understand what it truly means, manducate in Latin, which translates to take and eat, that we are literally called to take and eat. In the beautiful Panis Angelicus is that phrase, manduca Domino, that we are literally to eat that which is God, that we are to consume him and to be fed by him. It was overwhelming to me on that one as well. And so to take that song, or the word manducate, and to write that song, manducate, Jesus fill me. That's what we'll be doing this weekend. We'll be filled with the full presence of him in the Eucharistic embrace.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. So good, Julie. And as you were talking too, I can't remember my own first communion into any detail, just because I remember, I think the time I started to recall that memory, it was like maybe my mid to late 20s. But I do remember the first time I received Holy Communion after the COVID stuff, after being away for so long. And that was so powerful. So thank you so much for helping us remember our first communions and sharing all about your music. And we can hear more about your music and so many more great artists on We Sing Our Faith, 9 a.m. Central tomorrow morning. So thanks again, Julie. And that's the end of our first hour. Can you believe it? It went by so quick. I hope you learned something. I'm learning with you. But if this is us parting ways, hey, we'll see you bright and early tomorrow. Well, not tomorrow, but Monday morning, 6 a.m. Central, 7 a.m. Eastern. But we still have another hour to go. So hang with us, especially if you're on all our social medias there. We're going to be talking with an incredible artist, musical artist, Hallowed Beats, right in the next hour. But until then, God bless, make it a joyful day, and we'll see you right after this break.
This has been Morning Joy, where truth matters, hosted by Keith Downey. Take some joy with you today. Visit grnonline.com/joy to listen again, share a segment, or answer the question of the day. That's grnonline.com/joy.